Barry Windham will be in that tournament a little bit later on here on WCW Saturday night, but he had something he wanted to say to Flying Brian. He wanted us here with him to hear this, Barry.
You know, first of all, Pillman, I've been working on something here for a while, but I've had my priorities a little bit wrong. They've been in the wrong place. Now I've got the World Heavyweight Championship staring me right in the face. I've got the United States Heavyweight Tournament right here today. But I'll tell you what I've done. And I'm not going to be like other people that we know, but I've gone out and I've found a man that I want to be your partner, and I know, we've discussed this, that he can be the World Tag Team Champion with you. Now, this man held the World Television Championship longer than any man alive. And he was only beaten once, and that was by me. But I'll tell you what, 2 weeks later, he took the championship away from me. The guy I'm talking about is somebody that's not going to leave you hanging in the balance, and somebody you can count on when the going gets rough. And the man's name is Austin, and he's right over here. And Pillman, he's ready to back you up 100%.
All right, Stunning Steve Austin.
Well, I'll tell you what, Shivani, it's got to boggle your imagination to think of the impact the three of us are going to have in this sport. Barry Windham, future world champion. And then think of the dominance that can be achieved when you bring two world-class athletes together and they mesh as one. When you take those talents and abilities and you focus on a common goal, you create an unbeatable machine. You take a real good look at this trio right here, because it's going to be a familiar sight in the world title picture for a long time to come.
You know, Tony, I don't need or care to have anyone tell me how great a wrestler I am, because believe me, I know, and the people know. I held the world television title longer than anyone in history. And I'm going to bring that same ingredient that it takes to be a champion in our quest for the World Tag Team Champions. It's something that I can't explain. Brian and I aren't like every other wrestler. We don't just go out there and wrestle for the sake of wrestling. We have a need to have a belt around our waist, and that need may turn to greed. And we will be unstoppable as a team, Tony. Count on it.
Okay, there they go, Jim, go on their way to the ring. This new tag team as we go back to action.
This is the Pro Wrestling Spotlight, presented by Hami Media and the Pro Wrasslin Reflection, where we discuss the very best of the best in pro wrestling history.
And what's it gonna do when Hulkamania and the largest arms in the world run wild on you?
The two soundest wrestlers in the World Wrestling Federation, maybe in the history of the World Wrestling Federation, are right here, right now. Mr. Perfect and the excellence of execution, the Hitman.
WrestleMania weekend isn't complete without the Heartbreak Kid, and he is on his way.
He put hard times on Dusty Rhodes and his family.
They think they got the answers. I change the question. You will rest in peace.
Get used to it in Ric Flair. Who you're looking at, the man.
This man! What the
What is going on there, Reflection Knights? What is going on there to the Vitoites, the dispensary Hami Knights, and the probationary solitary confinement PWCites? What is going on to all the ites all over the world, you crazy motherfuckers out there? The Israelites, the Ukrainites, the Russianites, the Demites, the Republites, all the ites all over the world. You're trying to destroy the world, but you know what? We here at the PWR Podcast is the positive energy that is thwarting all you evil motherfuckers. We are the positive, nostalgic energy that is thwarting the end of the world motherfuckers out there, because we offer a sense of calmness. We offer a sense of, nobility. We offer a sense of unity. Well, I don't know about unity because one person here hates AEW's guts, but there's an epiphany on that one. I will get into that in a couple of seconds, Reflection. But what is going on to all the ites all over the world? What's going on to the Magnificent 70, Elite 8, the Naughty 9, the Terrific 10? You know who you are. Donnie Day 1. I know you want to get to 200 because we've been talking about that 200th episode. But tranquilo, Donnie, tranquilo, it's okay. We will get to episode 200. Blink your eyes, Donnie, and we will get there. What's going on to Greenpeace? Phyllis Scott Wood, the Gooch, who has been Facebook overdrive. What's going on, Gooch? You're loving all these episodes. You're catching up with all these episodes and all that stuff. Michael Davis, Jeff Lipman, the SNX Express. You know who you are. It's love. It's love over here at the PWR podcast here at the Hami Media Group at podbeam.com. And of course, we took a week off because of a birthday celebration for somebody. But before we get into that, I must introduce myself because I'm vain like that. I must introduce myself because, again, I got to look younger. Because, again, I'm already 48. The bones are crinkling. So once I introduce myself, I get 5 years younger here. I get a little 7 years younger. The bones get back to its fluidity, if you will, Reflectionites. I am the charismatic one. I am the studious one. I am the affluent one. But most importantly, I am the glorious one. The only objective man in this IWC, YWC, PWC punditry. The only objective man in this Twitter universe. The only man who is more accurate than Brock out there, that anti-Semite. But anyway, neither here nor there. You're a friend of mine, the Professor Chabebe Cruz. And I'm not here alone. No. I'm here with my brother from another mother, the conservative liberal, the liberal conservative, dum-dum doer idiot zone, the iron stomach one, Dr. Frickenstein. And before I say he's undisputed, he told me, he slid into my DMs, no diddy, because one of my retorts back on the I Am Reflectionites was, are you sure you wasn't hacked? Because he was having a birthday celebration last week. He went to see All in Texas. And he sat there for 8 hours enjoying AEW wrestling. And I kid you not, he said, Professor, I am now an AEW wrestling fan. I will never shit on them. They gave me a birthday celebration. They gave me a love for professional wrestling. I was like, damn, my jaw hit the floor when I read the DMs. Here's your friend of mine, the Detroit Rock City Universal Heavyweight Champion of the World, the Tommy Wonder, and the #1 AEW fan out there. What's going on, my friend?
You're going to think we talked about this beforehand and he set this up. I was full on ready to talk about how I haven't watched AEW in so long. Mm-hmm. And the clips that I've seen of Hangman versus Dean Ambrose,
John Moxley,
clips made me like that even less than I thought possible to not like it. This dude took a curb stomp that Dean stole from his former leader Seth onto a bed of nails.
Okay.
He then got DDT'd on a bed of nails and won. And stood up celebrating when that would have murdered anyone else that took their head onto a bed of nails. I got two questions for you. One,
he finished this story. That's all I'm just going to say. Go ahead. What's your question?
How anyone can defend this company anymore is beyond me. And I assumed all this time that they were doing All In Texas at the Dallas Cowboys Stadium, whatever the hell it's called, Allegiant, whatever.
Globe Life Field, Texas Rangers Stadium.
It was? That wasn't even the Cowboys Stadium?
No, Texas Rangers.
Holy shit, that makes it worse.
Oh, God.
They didn't have fans in the bleacher part at all. They were all on the floor. Why didn't they just dig up the Sportatorium? They were doing so well, Professor, putting on shows in smaller venues that were full. The crowds were hot. Every clip I saw, the audiences were all in, no pun intended. And then I saw clips of this, and I promise you, the same neckbeards defending this are the ones that if that had even one piece of the bleachers tarped off with the WWE show, they would have been like, look, they're not selling out. Why even book it there if you can't fill the fucking bleachers? It was all floor seats. Maybe there was some bleachers over here. I couldn't tell because the camera looked like maybe some people were in the lower bowl on that side.
Wait a minute.
It's embarrassing.
Wait. To be fair, I got to be fair here. They set up for a big stage. You have to remember that they had the big stage, so they had to, curtail some of the bleacher.
I'm not talking about that side. I'm talking about the sides that had 0 people in the lower 100 section or the 200 section. There were nobody.
You're making it sound like you was hacked when you. I'm an AEW fan. I guess you was hacked.
My guess is it was Gooch because he's the only person I know praising AEW. That's it. It's got to be him. I've resigned to the fact that I'm never going to like that show.
I understand you did not want to watch 7 hours like the professor did. It was a 7-hour
pay-per-view. Spilled over into main event.
An hour.
I just don't understand why you would book that building. Remember 107 years ago when Hogan had the worst WrestleMania moment ever where Brett told him, take it, and he beat Yokozuna for the belt? Remember it was supposed to be in the Rose Bowl or the LA Coliseum and they moved it to that little building?
No, you're twisting two of it. That's Vegas. It was WrestleMania 7. Him and Slaughter.
Hogan got moved. And they said it was because of death threats, right? But it was because they didn't fucking sell tickets. Why would they not have moved this? I can't. Dude, I literally thought. This means there's even less people there than I already thought. Because a baseball stadium is a third of the size of that Cowboys stadium. You could fit 2 of the Texas Ranger stadiums in there.
If I'm not mistaken, Globe Life Field fills for Texas Rangers game 45,000. I'll just give you that number.
Right. And
so if you curtail
100,000.
If you curtail the staging area, and they said they got almost 25 to 30,000, it's okay. It's all right. It's all right.
There's no way. There's absolutely. They were all on the field. There was no one in the seats that are there for baseball. They put people where the players play for baseball.
You got to show me the pictures. It looked okay to me.
There's a shot where they do the fireworks, and every seat on the curve of the fucking thing leading up. And then there's no, like where the seats are on the ground, there's whole areas from those seats to the bleachers that don't even have chairs there. It's just wide open, empty. And I'm just like, what in the hell? I literally thought, it answered the question for me. For one, I thought it was Cowboy Stadium. And 2, I thought, good for them. Because I thought this was our Wembley, right? They sold out Wembley in 8 minutes. So I thought they were going to sell out the Cowboy, and I thought, why aren't these fuckers bragging about this? Well, then I saw the picture or video. It was not a picture, it was a video of fireworks going off, and there were nobody in the seats that you would sit in for football and baseball. Nobody.
Jesus, man, you just bring in the thunder. My goodness, mate.
It's hard to pull for him. I gave him $90 today. I ordered the Sting 3-pack legendary Sting Icon box set from Jazzwares. It's
at least you're contributing to the AEW fund. That you've found a way to do it.
I know it doesn't sound like it. I'm pulling for him, man. I am. I'm pulling for him.
It doesn't sound
god awful.
Okay. I'll calm you down, TW. We don't have to talk about AEW. You was happy with the Goldberg retirement match and all that stuff, so I understand your position.
Also,
okay.
I want this is recorded. We can go back and get the receipts. Mark my words.
Okay.
Seth Rollins will be cashing in at SummerSlam in 3 weeks, or 2.5 by the time this airs. I promise you, that injury is not real. Everybody thinks it's real. I told my buddy, I'm like, listen, dude, Travis, he's like, no. First of all, the entire match, they kept saying, he tweaked his leg last week. They kept saying it. I'm like, great, he tweaked, whatever. And then he does the exact same move that he did in the Jinder Mahal match that he actually did get hurt. He lands it, no problem, and then grabs his leg and bounces the corner. Not once does he look in pain. He's just sitting there looking at Heyman. Heyman's looking at him, whatever. And then he gets up on his own and he swings at LA Knight, gets blocked and takes his finisher, then rolls out of the ring, says fuck, and then walks himself to the back. If you
assisted. You have to be
Yeah,
fair.
he had his arm over someone's. He got up on the leg that he was favoring, and then he walked out with his arm over someone's shoulder. And here's why I think it's a work. I told my buddy, same thing with the way Drew lost. There was no way Randy Orton was losing. If Randy Orton loses after losing to Cody, after losing to who's the other one that beat him?
Losing momentum. I get what you're
right. You can't just keep losing. So I told my buddy before, I go, LA Knight has to win this match. He has to. If LA Knight loses to Seth, LA Knight's done.
But it wasn't a good win. He knew unless he's acting, he's in on it too.
That's what I'm telling you. They saved Seth. They gave him the win. They make him look mad because he didn't want to win like that. And then you watch at SummerSlam, Seth Rollins is cashing in.
I'll take your word for it. I'm on the Travis side. I think it's legit. I think because it was the first flip that he caught his leg. That tweak was there. Not the second one. The second one was dumb. I think he kind of like tried to, he faked that
Let
one.
me ask you a question.
Go ahead.
If you did that flip and you felt something in your knee that reminded you of what happened to you a year ago, would you fucking do another one?
No, I wouldn't.
Exactly. It's a work. It's an absolute work.
Okay.
It was all done to protect him. And Travis said, dude, they ended it quick like Owen and Austin. I go, yeah, that's the other thing. That's why I believe it's not real. Owen did a roll-up loss to Austin rolling him up. The worst roll-up in the history of wrestling because he was damn near crippled. They did a finishing maneuver. If it was a quick win, Seth would have had him small package him. Then you got all the internet nerds saying Seth was supposed to win, but they called an audible and had LA Knight. Why? It wasn't for number one contender. He won because he was supposed to win.
Reflection. I see what happens at a week of drinking, hangover, birthday party celebrations, girlfriend, fucking all this stuff. He is ready to go. This is the ether. This is a pipe bomb. This is the TW special pipe bomb here at the PWR podcast, here at the Hami Media Group at PodBeam.com. But I got to control TW right now. TW, we got to at least go back in the time machine to celebrate untapped potential. Are you ready for that, sir? You ready to at least calm down? Okay, I'm just saying. Cero miedo. Yes, I understand that. But anyway, let's get into this spotlight edition. Reflection Nights untapped potential. Well, I hear something. Is that me?
Kids driving away in their car.
Oh, that's good.
My Ring doorbell.
Oh, that's cool. You got to love the technology. But anyway, this is a PWR Spotlight Untapped. Well, TW, I have to ask you, is this untapped potential of what we could have had or untapped potential because, for the tag team scene in the 90s, Reflection Nights, let me start by this way, because we are doing a spotlight on Stunning Steve Austin, you know him as Stone Cold Steve Austin, and Flying Brian Pillman, and they were known in WCW in 1993 as the Hollywood Blondes. But I'm calling this untapped potential because of what it could have been, because TW, in the early to mid 90s, the tag team scene, we can honestly say the number one team in the early 90s was unequivocally the Steiner brothers, because they were the hot team. They had the pedigree, they had the resume and all that stuff. Road Warriors were simmering down, if you will, Reflection Nights, because they were already, they were Mount Rushmore, Reflection Nights. Don't get me wrong, but they were getting to be nostalgic and they were getting to be celebrated more than being the number one team, because again, they already had their run in the mid 80s to the early 90s. So they were waning down. There was room for at least top tag teams. You had Gordy and Dr. Death Steve Williams. But again, the tag team scene, there wasn't that dominant twosome besides the Steiner brothers. At least, and the Steiner brothers, again, Reflection Nights, they were baby faces. But sometimes you need that top heel tag team. And to me, I think Pillman and Austin, the Hollywood Blondes, if they got a run in the 90s, we would be saying that the Hollywood Blondes would be probably top 10, maybe top 15 tag team of all time, TW. What say you? Are they untapped potential? What could have been? Or am I just, grandstanding or gaslighting them?
Listen, it's a two-headed coin.
Mm-hmm.
It's good that it didn't work, because had it worked, we wouldn't have Stone Cold Steve Austin. We probably still have Pillman, because he wouldn't have gotten that car accident in ECW on his way to WWE. But these guys, and I believe this full tilt, if these two didn't get sandbagged by Hogan and broken up, they would be, if not the greatest tag team of all time, at least in the discussion. They were that good, that quick. And to know that Austin was mad about it when they put it, he just showed up and they go, "You're teaming with Pillman." He's like, "Nothing against Pillman, but what the fuck? I want to be a singles guy. I don't want this." And they made lemonade out of lemons. And in the beginning, you can see it. Austin's not matching him. I think they had vests, but his boots weren't the same. They both had the tights with the stars. Towards the end, they were all in. They had matching boots. They had matching vests. They had matching gear. They did tag team moves. They did this all the time. They fully embraced it. They were the most over thing in the company as heels, and then got sandbagged by Hogan. It's sad because they would have been glorious.
I don't know if they were sandbagged by Hogan or maybe Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes. You know, I don't know the committee.
The word was Hogan was mad that they were more popular than him and they had to go. So they broke him up so that Hogan could still be the guy because he was afraid he was just like Steamboat. Steamboat stole WrestleMania 3, never was the same in WWE again.
Okay, so with that being said, Reflection Nights, we're going to take a look at this because, again, TW, he kind of abbreviated the whole history of the Hollywood Blondes, and then I could say, we'll see you next time here at the PWR Podcast. But, of course, I have to elongate it for the viewing, for the listening pleasure of all the Reflection Nights. So let's start with one of the parameters that TW, you just said. Austin was not, keen on being a tag team wrestler because, again, he was coming off being one of the greatest television champions of all time. He had the record and all that stuff. He could be in the discussion with Arn Anderson as one of the greatest television champions of all time and all that stuff. So we get all that. But TW, what say you as the wrestler? Are you looking at this as a downgrade because you're a single star, you're a television champion, you're thinking you're going to fight for the U.S. title, you think you're going to be contending for the world title, maybe I'll get the torch, maybe they'll give me the WCW torch, if you will, and selling out and all that stuff, but then you're going to relegate me to the tag team scene? What say you as the wrestler being Steve Austin in that situation?
You 100 feel that way because we always talk about the IC title is like the torch. Once you get that, you know you're being groomed to either be the man or be the guy chasing the man, right? Like the heels went on to just job to Hogan, but the baby faces went on to be until Steamboat. Well, I guess Santana too, but you were getting elevated once you had the IC title run. The WCW NWA version of that was not the US title. It was the TV title. The TV title was the working man's title. It's the title made famous by the greatest TV champion of all time, Tully Blanchard. And if you had that, they knew we talked about this before. The U.S. was almost lateral to the world title. It's what they gave a guy when he wasn't in the title match. He got to be this. They gave it to Dusty. They gave it to Sting. They gave it to Luger. Some of them before they were world champion, but some of them after they were world champion. And so TV title, Austin, he probably thinks he's on his way. He's getting better and better. Before Owen hurt him, Austin was one of the best workers there was. And then he had to change his style because of his neck injury, right? Became more of a brawler than a technician. But he absolutely was blindsided by being paired up with Pillman out of nowhere. He just showed up and they're like, "Hey, we're putting you with Pillman." And he's like, "What?" Greatest TV champion of all time.
Let me give you the logistics on that because I want you to parlay on this because, again, with what you're saying and what I kind of agree with it, to Steve Austin, it feels like a downgrade. Reflection Nights, the birth of the Hollywood Blondes is in comparison for today's generation, if you will, a couple of years ago, a decade or so ago, the Hollywood Blondes, the success of them is in comparison to TNA's Beer Money, James Storm and Bobby Roode. They were put together. You did not expect magic. You got magic and all that stuff. And Beer Money Inc., they turned into what I'm talking about with the Hollywood Blondes, where Beer Money can be arguably a top 15 tag team of all time because of what they did. So saying that, in January of 1993, Reflection Nights, it wasn't Steve Austin and Flying Brian Pillman as a tag team. It was actually Flying Brian and Barry Windham. And the first promo of the birth of the Hollywood Blondes, even before they even became that name, was Barry Windham telling Brian Pillman that I got to chase the singles titles. I got to chase the U.S. title. I got to chase the NWA World Heavyweight title. I know TW will say that's not a heavyweight championship. I get that. I understand that. But that was the promo. So Barry Windham said, I'm not going to leave Brian Pillman out there, to fend for himself. I got you a partner, so this way you can chase those WCW Tag Team Championships. And he recruited Steve Austin because even Barry Windham said that was my toughest opponent for the TV title. I beat him, he beat me, and all that stuff. So TW, that logistic right there at least gives the launching pad for the Hollywood Blondes. I know you're talking about it's a downgrade. I agree with you 100%. As our fandom eyes are looking, it looks like a downgrade. But what say you about at least that promo where, see, the thing about Steve Austin is we cannot sugarcoat this. 1993 Steve Austin is night and day to Stone Cold Steve Austin in 1998 because he wasn't in control of his promos. He wasn't in control of his character because he was still trying to find himself. He stuttered on his words. He did not know what to say. He was very contrite and all that stuff. So that's why, even though he's downgraded, which you and I agree with, to the tag team scene, he couldn't carry the responsibilities, if you will, Reflectionites, of being a top guy where you got to talk them into the ring. TW, would you agree with that assessment, or do you have a different take on it?
And that's possibly what their reason was for putting him with Pillman, because he could talk. And then he was Paul Lee, he could talk. And then Colonel Robert Parker, and he could talk. And eventually, obviously, Austin could talk, right? He had enough, popped his fucking ceiling, and he got the big picture. But imagine being Stone Cold, feeling like, all right, I just had this incredible run as TV Jam. I have to be getting elevated here soon. What's going on? Then they tell you, putting you with Pillman. And he's like, what the fuck? And then Barry Windham cuts a promo saying everything that Austin feels. I got to go for the singles belt. I want to be the U.S. champ. I want to be the world champ. I want that bullshit title that they made when Flair took the real one to the WWE. It doesn't count, but I want it. And they got all this shit. And then he's like, no, here, and we're going to call you the Hollywood Blondes. And even though he was a pretty boy with the robes and the side part, before that, the long hair, that's not him. He's not glamorous. He's more like Bunkhouse Buck than Bunkhouse Buck was in real life, right? So he's probably just like, what in the fuck? Like, what do I got to do around here to show these guys I'm ready to carry the ball? But like I said,
you looked at that promo, right? Did Stone Cold, well, we call him Stone Cold Reflection, I excuse us, but do you feel Stone Cold looked comfortable with that promo? He stuttered on his words a little bit. He did not know what to say. Maybe you're right. He looked like he was a little bit
because he didn't believe it. He didn't believe it.
Okay, good.
But
That's
once he did, he got better, and him and Pillman did some awesome work together, promos and in ring. Just once he embraced it. Kind of like I always use this as a defense of somebody. The Red Rooster gimmick is not looked back upon very fondly. But Terry Taylor took it, and as ridiculous as he looked doing Bog, he did it all. He went out there and did what he was told to do. Probably didn't believe it was ever going to get over, and it didn't. But he still gave it a shot. He could have said, no, I'm not doing that, and then we wouldn't be. Now he still works for that company. 40 years later, he's still employed by the WWE as a trainer, or whatever the hell he is. And it's been back and forth, WCW. But Austin, mad as he was, he took the job. Next thing you know, he's got a best friend in Brian Pillman. They spilled that shit. That Hollywood Blonde turn carried over to the WWE a couple years later, and they had the feud there on top of what happened there. So that tells you the coin flip of him going from, I don't want to do this shit, to embracing it and making money with it, if you will. Because he's definitely an old school guy that wanted to make money.
So with that being said, Reflectionites and TW, we talked about, again, on the side of Stone Cold. Again, he feels it's a downgrade for him. Again, we understand maybe from the booking committee, the Dusty Rhodes, the Ric Flair reasoning behind it. They had a reason. And I think they were validated a little bit. But we got to talk about the anchor of the Hollywood Blondes. That's Flying Brian Pillman. Because again, Flying Brian, we on the singles run, TW. Again, he had good matches. Let's say he challenged Ric Flair for the WCW title, and all that stuff. He had his moments, but then he was relegated to the cruiserweight division. He felt a little bit maybe like they weren't utilizing his full potential. So I think he was embracing this tag team scene because, again, when you're the tag team champions, you're technically the world heavyweight champion, but on the tag team side. So he's looking at this as a great opportunity to hone his craft, hone his skills. But for this purpose, him and Barry Windham was like peanut butter and liverwurst. But him and Steve Austin was peanut butter and jelly, and it just jammed well. But Flying Brian,
no pun intended.
No pun intended. But Brian Pillman embraced this kind of pivot, if you will, because initially in the first, let's say, 2 or 3 months, he was the leader, he was the talker. What say you about Flying Brian Pillman? Because no one gives him the credit where credit is due on the Hollywood Blondes.
It's funny because these two guys, I was just watching some of the stuff with my girlfriend Tony, and I was like, you see that guy right there? He's dead. But I go, but you see his boots? Those are the boots my boots I had made to look like Pillman's boots. They were, the only difference is he had a white sole, I had a black sole, and he had a black tongue, I had a white tongue. But I had white boots with black laces, and I wanted to get the Arn and Tully red and white boots, but I knew to just get white and black so I could wear them with whatever color scheme I had. And if I got red and white, I had to wear red and white. So he was an influence on me. And when I won my very first match and title, because my first win was for the Northern Ontario Wrestling Light Heavyweight title, I celebrated like Stone Cold Steve Austin did when he won the U.S. title, or one of them, TV or U.S. And so these two guys they were such an influence on me. So obviously, and me and my buddies to this day, when people ask what the greatest ring music of all time is, it's Hollywood Blondes. Their music was awesome. It was just, it was like Austin's music, and then Austin made it different in WWE. But they had the best music, and they came out. But Pillman was the perfect guy to put Austin with, to get him to talk better, to do better promos. He already was a good worker. Pillman was a good worker. They almost had that Heart Foundation thing going on, except for they both could wrestle. But Austin was the muscle, Pillman was the high flyer. They did all that kind of stuff, and perfect compliment to Austin was Pillman. And like you said, for him, he got relegated to the Cruiserweight title, which felt like, I know this isn't politically correct, but it almost felt like the midgets. Like you were just an attraction. You weren't the main event. You were never going to be the main event. As a matter of fact, Nelson Royal, I think the guy's name was the NWA light heavyweight champion forever. And he would beat everybody in those light heavyweight matches. But on WCW Saturday night, already in the ring, Nelson Royal, and he'd be tapping out to Ric Flair's figure four. Like they didn't even make it out like it was a title match. He was just a jobber if it was not for the Cruiserweight title. And Pillman probably thought, you know what? This Cruiserweight's great. They trust me to make it better. Him and Liger almost put it on the map with that Clash match. But he knew tag team, like you just said, a lot of people don't look at it that way. When in reality, that's what it is. Hulk Hogan is the best singles wrestler in the world, and the British Bulldogs are the best tag team in the world. They're both world champions, right? One is a team, one is an individual. And Austin Pillman's probably the guy that told Austin, look, man, this is bigger than the TV or the U.S. title. The only thing bigger than this is the World Heavyweight title, because we're the World Heavyweight Tag Team titles. And they embraced it, and they ran with it. And I think Pillman looked at it as an opportunity and talked Austin into also believing it was an opportunity. Yeah.
Well, we know, Reflectionites, from history that, Steve Austin doesn't have a big circle of friends. So he had limited trust. He had trust issues, if you will. Because, again, I think from the WCW, he's very old school. So on the friend side, Steve Austin said Diamond Dallas Page is a friend that he could trust and confide to. And, of course, he was a road buddy with Flying Brian, so he's sharing the road stories, Rick Rude and all that stuff. So he had a very small circle of friends within the wrestling business, Reflectionites, that he can trust and and he can give off secrets, be vulnerable to. So with that being said, TW, again, it's funny that this lasted not even a full calendar year. It probably was like January of '93, and they broke up in like November of '93. It was so quick. You blinked and it was like, God damn, they did a lot, and they did enough to be remembered. And the first, mission statement of the Hollywood Blondes is, of course, to get the WCW tag team titles, which were held at the time by Ricky Steamboat and Shane Douglas. So with that being said, TW, the Hollywood Blondes at first, they were not called the Hollywood Blondes. They were, like you said, they weren't matching just yet. Of course, Flying Brian got Steve Austin to spend a little money so this way they could get the stars on their butts and, matching jackets and shit like that. But TW, they had to chase somebody. You had to have a protagonist, and they were the antagonizers. What say about the Hollywood Blondes against Steamboat and Douglas, and then it parlayed into Dos Hombres, because that was one of the pillars of their rivalries with the legacy of the Hollywood Blondes.
So Steamboat and Shane Douglas are another, like, what the fuck, thrown together team. I think the teaming with Steamboat and the feuding with the Hollywood Blondes, I think resurrected Shane Douglas's career, right? Like, it brought him back from the depths of the dynamic duo hell.
You know what's funny? I don't mean to cut you off. You know what's funny about at least this rivalry? Because Dos Hombres was a last minute pivot because Shane Douglas quit WCW, because under that mask, it wasn't Shane Douglas. It was Brad Armstrong to at least finish the dates of the rivalry between the Hollywood Blondes. I just wanted to say that fact out there.
It's funny you say that, because in the one match, well, it was only one match you sent me, but they showed the recap of the previous match where Shane Douglas ran out there like this to show it wasn't them. And then only Steamboat unmasked and said Shane Douglas and pointed at the other guy. And I remember thinking the other guy was way taller than Shane. But I didn't know it was Brad. But
it was Brad. Well, what say about
did Douglas come back?
No, he quit and went to ECW. That was his second time he quit, and then went to Eastern Championship Wrestling.
So in a week from that match, Shane Douglas and Steamboat didn't wrestle the Hollywood Blondes?
Nope. It was Steamboat and Brad Armstrong as the Dos Hombres in the cage.
They wrestled with the mask again? Wow, that's terrible. But anyways, I believe, well, again, it did resurrect his career because it made him, it's funny to watch him team with Steamboat, to watch him team with Johnny Ace, and then to see him, the confidence he has in ECW, right? Like, they basically made him the man. And it almost felt like we're talking about Austin and Pillman feeling held back. Shane Douglas had to have been, because that's basically the genesis of his persona in ECW is, fuck all you guys that held me back. I'm the best there is, and I'm going to be the best, right? So, but that's what I was saying. I think if Steamboat and Douglas don't happen, I don't know how over he is in ECW, because I honestly believe Steamboat resurrected Shane Douglas's career, because he was dead in the water with Dynamic Dudes. Absolutely just shit, right? Like, if anything, they should have turned him heel on the Dynamic Dudes to try to salvage him. No offense to Johnny Ace, but he never had it. He was definitely the wet blanket of the team, but I always thought Douglas had potential. And when he was teaming with Steamboat, at this time, Steamboat's a former world champion, former U.S. champion, former IC champion. Like, it's a good guy to get stuck with if you're going to get stuck in a team. And then to feud with the Blondes, they had awesome matches. They had awesome heat. The crowds were into all the matches. And I forgot that he left. I didn't know he left in the middle of the feud. So,
he did.
But it made him Shane Douglas. It absolutely made ECW Shane Douglas possible, because he goes there straight from Dynamic Dudes. He goes there with insecurity. He went there straight from Steamboat, cocky. You know what I mean? Not cocky, but confident.
Confident, yeah.
He went there confident. And I think Steamboat and these matches with Pillman and Austin, I think it helped, of all of them, it helped Douglas the most, but it also elevated Pillman and Austin inevitably.
I was actually going to ask you that question. Do you think that the feud with Steamboat for the titles elevated and gave legitimacy to the Hollywood Blondes, because, again, of the resume of Steamboat being a former world champion, U.S. champion, TV champion, all that stuff?
Didn't Steamboat and Austin wrestle for singles titles too, the TV title?
Yes, they did.
Yeah, so Steamboat elevates anybody. All right, if you're in there with Steamboat, you're coming out looking better. And again, I just remember as a kid thinking, I obviously we didn't know the politics of wrestling when we were kids, right? But I just remember thinking, it felt like ever since Steamboat lost that belt back to Flair in the third match, never got the rematch because Terry Funk came in and took over the next program. I think he left and went back to WWE. Then he comes back again, and he's Dustin Rhodes' mystery partner with the dragon head on. And then he's Shane Douglas's partner. And he really never made it past, I wouldn't even say mid-card. as much as I'm praising the TV title, it was mid-card was the roof for the TV title. You never wrestled after the mid-card, right, with the TV title? And it seems like that's all Steamboat was he was either someone's buddy, someone's mystery partner. Like he had a cup of coffee with Sting and Luger and them for a minute, right? Like I don't know about the NWO stuff. I don't remember Steamboat was around for that. But
no, he retired in '94.
Yeah. So, but he just always seemed to be almost like the guy you put someone in there with to elevate him. He was a guy that like Goldberg. Say what you will about him. That guy did the right thing for business. He put over Gunther. Not only did he put him over, he lost by submission. Basically, he got sleepered out for his first loss in Atlanta.
Okay, let's go with
Steamboat became that guy.
No, I understand where you're going with this. I just want to let's focus on the Hollywood Blondes with the feud with Steamboat and Douglas or Steamboat and Dos Hombres and all that stuff. For the Hollywood Blondes, TW, what say you on the type of tag team that you think they are? Do you think they're more like the Midnight Express? Do you think they're more like the maybe Hollywood, the Heavenly Bodies or the Hart Foundation? What say you about the stylistics of the Hollywood Blondes? What kind of tag team do you think they took from?
I would say partial Hollywood, or you got me doing the same thing. Partial Hart Foundation, because I think one was definitely the high flyer and one was definitely the mat guy. But no offense, God rest your soul, Jim Manville Neidhart. Jim Neidhart was not the best worker. And so he was almost, it was Stan Lane and Bret Hart, if you will, is what I would say. Bobby Eaton was the high flyer for the Midnight Express. Stan Lane was the worker who wasn't the high flyer per se, but did all the power. He's the one that threw Bobby Eaton for the rocket launcher. He was the one that did the pile drivers and stuff like that. So I would think it would be like Bret Hart. Actually, it almost, you know what? It'd almost be Bret Hart and 1, 2, 3 Kid. But if we're comparing him to tag teams, he's half the Hart Foundation, half the Midnight Express.
Okay, I go with that.
They, not he. They are a combination of those two.
No, I hear you. I understand. I'm not even.
You know what? Almost Brainbusters, but with Ariel.
Okay. You always want to give Tully Blanchard too many flowers, so I understand where you're going.
Tully and Arn are my second favorite tag team of all time.
I understand.
And not just Tully and Arn. And I think Arn Anderson is arguably the greatest tag team wrestler of all time.
Well, let's focus on the piece de resistance of the feud between the Hollywood Blondes and you could say Dos Hombres or Ricky Steamboat and whatever was the cage match for the WCW tag team titles. How did you like that match within the way they set up for the Blondes to win it?
Well, I'm gonna guess that I would have liked it had I watched it, but since I didn't because I ran out of time, I didn't know who wrestled in the damn match. So
but you saw how the earlier clip that you saw where they lost to Dos Hombres was because of the mask. Right. So Steamboat tried to redo the win he did last week, but it didn't work this time because he did the hot shot to Brad Armstrong. Well, stunning Steve Austin did his hot shot move to Brad Armstrong, hit his head in the cage, and he got the win, and they got the titles back. So what say you about that? With the psychology of that?
Wait a minute, they got the titles back? I didn't know they.
No, they kept the title. They kept the titles.
Well, I mean, I honestly believe if Shane Douglas doesn't quit, Steamboat and Douglas would have won the match. But
you think that? You really think that?
Absolutely. You don't set all that up. I know how the wrestling business works. When you win the non-title match, 99% of the time you lose the title match. Otherwise, I've never agreed. We've talked about it. I've said it on here before. I've never agreed with non-title matches. If the champion loses to somebody, that's somebody. You don't have UFC non-title matches unless the guy fucking didn't make weight, right? He makes weight, it's a title match. It's booked as a title match. I think every match with the champion in it is separate tag team. You get pinned in a tag team match, fine. You don't lose the belt, right? But non-title matches are so transparent that the people that win the non-title match are going to lose the title match. It's almost a foregone conclusion. Every now and again, you do have someone win a non-title match and then win the title in the title match for that swerve. But what you do when you do that is you make the champion look terrible because he lost twice to the same guy, non-title and then title, right? So I think they lost because if they win, you have to unmask Brad Armstrong at some point. And what do? Go, ha ha! It was never Shane Douglas. It was my good boy, bad Brad Armstrong. You know what I mean? Like,
it's funny because he unmasked himself, and then Brad Armstrong kept the mask on because people assumed, supposedly, it was Shane Douglas. So maybe you're right. There was a pivot, and it was an audible, if you will, and Brad Armstrong ate the pin.
Who did they end up losing the belts to?
Well, I'll talk about that in a couple of minutes because, again, it's kind of funny because, again, they switched it between – they were chasing Steamboat and Douglas first. But, again, this was their rivalry. This was their, let's say, coming out party reflection, if you will, that they were ready for the masses, if you will, TW. But they needed that main event rivalry. And, of course, it was against the Four Horsemen. And the first thing was that by this time – the Hollywood Blondes, and I'm talking about Steve Austin, TW, he was comfortable. He was comfortable being the heel, but also he was comfortable like trying shit out. So at a Flair for the Gold, give you the logistics, TW.
Flair for the old.
It was, well, that was the clapback, if you will. But at the original Flair for the Gold, the Hollywood Ric Flair was giving flowers to the Hollywood Blondes. He was saying how they're great, they're up and coming young tag team and all that stuff. But during that interview, TW, they were disrespecting Ric Flair for being an old guy, for being a dinosaur, and all that stuff. So Ric Flair kind of laughed it off a little bit, but then, of course, his backup, Arn Anderson, wasn't having any of that shit. And, of course, like you talked about, the Flair for the Old clapback episode, the parody spoof promo, if you will, Reflection Nights, where Stunning Steve Austin and Flying Brian had gray hair wigs and all that stuff. One of them, and Flying Brian was acting like Ric Flair and all that stuff. Steve Austin was acting like Arn Anderson. So, it was a battle of the young against the old, if you will. It's funny because, TW, I laugh at this now because, again, 40s, you're old. But now in 2020, Cinco, you're not old anymore. As long as you can go, that's all that matters. I don't think people could still talk about how old Goldberg is. He's 58 years old and all that stuff. As long as you do a good match, people will say they'll say you still got it and all that
look
shit.
Good. You got to look good too. You can't go out there looking like Wilford Brimley at 48. So
right, but
Styles, LA, Cody Rhodes, these guys are all over 40.
No, but what I'm saying is in the 90s they perpetuated that angle for being old. The young against the old in that stuff. They don't really do that anymore. It's basically the IWC trolls and all that stuff. So TW, what say you about the Flair for the old and the Flair for the gold? Because before we talk about the matches, because again, I think this was their most comfortable, especially for Steve Austin, because he's having fun with the promos. He's having fun being a heel against Ric Flair and Arn Anderson and all that stuff. What say you about that?
This is Flair's first year back after WWE, right? 93?
Yeah.
Yeah. So to me, and the one match you sent me, the 6-man match, fucking Invisible Paul Roma, but the Ric Flair as a babyface was nuts for me, right? Like, he was the hot tag. He ran and did high-flying stuff, and the crowd kind of ate it up. And I think, it's always going to be Hulk Hogan coming back to WWE is going to, well, obviously, politics aside, used to be the WWE welcomed them back with open arms. That's NWA, WCW. Flair's our boy. He's always welcome back, but he never stays babyface for long. This is probably after the Sting turn, where the Sting was the Horseman, or before?
This is after.
Okay.
Because in 93, he's being celebrated for coming back home. He didn't turn heel until 94 against Hogan.
Right. So the whole deal is it's whatever. But the Flair for the old, Austin was not dressed up like Arn. He was running Arn down to Pillman as Flair, who looked like Red Riding Hood's grandma. And then he goes, "Here's a stooge right now." And Arn came out and beat both of them up by himself and then set up the matches. But it was definitely weird seeing Wyndham not with Arn Flair and against them, and that Flair and Arn were the good guys. And I absolutely watched that match thinking that Barry was going to turn on Austin and Pillman and go back with Flair and Arn. But, it's crazy how 32 years can cloud your memory, because I do remember this, and I remember Barry. I think we did a show where we talked about Barry having Austin come out and replace him with Pillman, or whatever, setting up the Hollywood Blondes, but the show wasn't about the Hollywood Blondes. And it was like they said during that match, Barry has always been in Flair's shadow one way or the other. Either, they didn't say this, but either chasing him or teaming with him.
That 6-man reflection nights he's talking about is Barry Windham and the Hollywood Blondes against the Horsemen. We can't forget Pretty Paul Roma as the newest member of the Four Horsemen, or the worst.
Who is fourth? Mongo?
It was Ole, Arn, Flair, and Pretty Paul Roma. And then it just turned into the Horsemen because, again, Ole just left because he couldn't do anything physically at that time. So it was just the
J.J. Dillon number 2 at that point.
He didn't want to do that. So it is what it is. But it kind of overshadowed what you're saying because, you know, the Hollywood Blondes took a back seat to Windham and Flair because, again, for the nostalgic return of Ric Flair back home, as you said, TW, he wants that NWA World Heavyweight Championship. So the Hollywood Blondes was Barry Windham's backup and all that stuff. So it kind of looked a little bit murky. But, again, they got their main event slot, if you will, Reflection Nights at Clash of the Champions, where it was I'm talking about like it was a double main event, but it was a high-profile match. It was the Hollywood Blondes against Ric Flair and Arn Anderson. But again, that match was old versus new. The young lions versus the old guards and all that stuff, TW. Did you like that premise? The thing I liked about a Hollywood Blondes match was Jesse Ventura on the commentary, because Jesse Ventura actually put a stamp on the seal of approval of the Hollywood Blondes. He said, that's my favorite tag team of all time because, again, Jesse Ventura is the Hollywood actor. He's saying, like, me and the Hollywood Blondes are at Arnold Schwarzenegger's house parties. They got the Diddy oil, baby oil, and all that stuff. So we get all those young girls. We're on the Epstein list and all that shit. But TW, what say you about did you like the old guard versus the young lion concept with the Hollywood Blondes and the Four Horsemen, or did you think it wasn't necessary, or it just looked weird?
I didn't mind it because I was younger than all of them. But what I did understand is how you put Barry with the young guys, because Barry's fucking old as shit. Like, I think about Dustin Rhodes and how he just won. It looked like accidentally won that TNT title because my good man, what's his dick, Adam Cole. Hopefully, is it concussion or is it cancer?
Concussion.
All right, which is not good either. But you know.
Think of it like the Bryan Danielson concussion that forced him to retire the first time in WWE.
Right. Yeah. Well, but it's a fucking place you go to get hurt. If you want to get hurt, you go to AEW. But
focus, TW, focus.
Barry Windham is, dude. At this point, it's 93. Barry Windham's been there since 86. But he was in WWE in 85. So how's he the young guy? You know, it's
Barry Windham had a mission statement. He had a motivation to be the heavyweight champion, which he did in 1993.
The heavyweight championship or the bullshit international?
It was the NWA World Heavyweight title. Give it respect and credence, TW.
Garbage.
Yes. But it seems like you're not.
Wasn't this, baby? Was not this? Was not the Lex Luger, Ron Simmons, Vader belt?
I'm saying, TW, it's the old guard versus the young lions. That's the way they set it up. And again, like
you, young lion in '86, him and Luger were the young.
I'm talking about the Clash match. I'm talking about the 6-man. The 6-man was about Barry Windham and Ric Flair. It was trying to reignite a feud. Pay attention.
Yeah.
What say you about the Clash match? That's all I'm saying.
Is the Clash match the 6-man?
It was garbage? Jesus Christ, TW.
No.
The Clash match was just the tag team. The Clash match was the tag team title match.
Flair and Arn versus Hollywood Blondes. Also,
yes.
Probably would have loved it, but I didn't. I ran out of time. Didn't see that. I focused on the other stuff.
Well, the Horseman won by disqualification because of the interference by Barry Windham, because he did not like Ric Flair getting even a sniff of a WCW championship of any kind. So I'm just giving you the logistics there, TW. So with that being said, it's funny because, again, with the Hollywood Blondes, TW, again, let's say the first 3 months, again, Austin wasn't comfortable. Then the 3 months after that, he's very comfortable. They're in matching gear and all that stuff. They got the moves down. They got the tag team chemistry down and all that stuff. And now we're, all we need is feed them tag teams so they can get their legacy. But then something strange happens. The Vince McMahon booking happens, TW. And that's when they wanted. Colonel Robert Parker says he's got an eye for talent, and he's looking at Steve Austin. So TW, what's saying about the breakup of the Hollywood Blondes?
Fucking terrible. I remember it was so out of nowhere.
This is like the WWE. This is like Vince McMahon saying we just want to just do a throwaway feud with a breakup tag team match. They never do this in WCW. Well, they never do this in the South. Let me change my words. What say you, TW? I'm sorry.
Oh, so Barry Windham never turned on Lex Luger, and Lex Luger never turned on Barry Windham.
No,
but you never turned on Dusty Rhodes.
You never saw that coming. There's a difference on that.
This one you didn't see coming either.
No, you saw this one coming a mile away.
But it still was rushed, and it was still dumb because they were the most over thing in the company, and then they broke them up, and everybody was like, "What? Like, what are you doing? Like, this is that'd be like having Goldberg go on the 100-match winning streak, winning a belt, and then having him immediately going on a 99-match losing streak."
And you asked me who they lost the tag team titles to. They lost it to Pretty Paul Roma and Arn Anderson as a throwaway. So that's why the downturn of the Hollywood Blondes started after Pretty Paul Roma cursed the Hollywood Blondes. I'm sorry, that's what I'll say. And then this breakup was just it made me mad. It even made Jesse Ventura kind of like
straight. So Arn was a WWF and WCW or NWA tag team champion with Tully, multiple NWA tag team champion. He was an NWA World WCW Tag Team Champion with Bobby Eaton. He was a World Champion with Larry Zbyszko. He was a World Champion with Paul Roma and a World Champion with Ole. Wasn't he World Tag Team Champions with Ole?
National Tag Team Champions.
Yeah, whatever. Either way. I didn't even know he was Tag Team Champions with fucking Roma. Was he Tag Team Champions with Wyndham or Flair?
No, he wasn't.
So that's it. Those are all his partners. Roma, Zbyszko, Eaton, Tully.
And Ole.
That's
yes.
Greatest tag team champion of all time. And to be tag team partner with the greatest world television champion of all time, great stuff. Great stuff.
Let me ask you this, because you and I are in agreement of the breakup of the Hollywood Blondes. It was forced, it was rushed and all that stuff. But let's put on our booker hats and let's be the booking committee like Dusty Rhodes, baby, and Ric Flair. Did they see with Austin being comfortable in the Hollywood Blondes gimmick, being comfortable with his promos, being comfortable having fun, if you will, TW? Did you think that they after seeing all that, they said, okay, it's time to pull the trigger. Let's see what he can do as a singles man because of, was it a reward? Do you think?
Yeah, if it wasn't for the fact that he said many times in interviews, now that you said something earlier, it might not have been Hogan. It might have been Flair, because I want to say they got heat for that Flair for the old stuff by calling Flair and Arn old. I want to say they gotten some heat for that. So that might have been the punishment, breaking them up.
Could be. You never know.
But I think Austin went on to win the U.S. title with Robert Parker, right?
He did.
Yeah. And then ended up getting fired by Bischoff and all that shit, but never really reached his full potential there. But arguably the most money-drawing champion in the history of the business in WWE, period. Like, ever, but in WWE. So, again, it's a good thing they broke up because we got Stone Cold Steve Austin as a direct. We got Loose Cannon Brian Pillman. They both went on to benefit from being the Hollywood Blondes because they were both pretty over from that point on in the singles wherever they were, whether it was WWE. Like Pillman, again, another short.
It launched Pillman to have, the run he did with the Horsemen because he became a Four Horsemen member. And then the Loose Cannon gimmick in ECW, the Loose Cannon gimmick in WWF, and all that stuff.
Our Foundation, like that year in WWE, I don't even know if he got a full year. That to me is my favorite Pillman era. Was the psychotic, the Austin 316 says this with Smith and 357 says that. I just think he found his stride. Unfortunately, was taken from us too soon. But I think all of it happens because of the Hollywood Blondes. And so, again, if you keep them together, I think they're arguably the greatest tag team of all time, potentially. Just like I say about the Steiners. The Steiners went on to do too much stuff apart from each other. For me, like Harlem Heat, I liked Harlem Heat a lot. Booker T went on to have a much more prestigious singles career than even his tag team career. So it's like once you do all that, it's not even your best era. So how can you be the best tag team? You know what I mean? That's where I feel about. But I honestly, full-heartedly believe the Hollywood Blondes, if they don't break up and they give them the Midnight Express run, the Arn and Tully run, the Rock and Roll run, they end up in WWE as maybe not the Hollywood Blondes, because we all know how that shit happened. But they go to WWE and they might. Well, then again, WWE is not exactly the greatest place to be a tag team back then. But
that is true.
The Road Warriors got a couple tag team runs. Tully and Arn got a tag team title run. The Midnight Express, not them. Heavenly Bodies, those guys. So there was an opportunity for it. I just don't know if they do reach their potential as a tag team, if we ever get to see them as good as they were as singles guys.
Let's not forget the ECW. If they would have left WCW, they would have went to ECW, and then I think they would have had the sky's the limit as tag teams, because ECW respected tag teams. So I could see them having wars with the Dudley Boys. I can see them having wars with the Eliminators, Sabu and Van Dam and shit like that. So what you're saying about the
Public Enema
too. Don't sleep on them. They would have had a great war with Public Enema in ECW and all that stuff. So let me ask you a two-part question, because I kind of like gave you the what if scenario on question 2. But in question 1, if the Hollywood Blondes stayed as a tag team, like you said, would they have at least been a top 3 team of all time in the 90s? I'm not saying all time, in the 90s. If they had that run, if you talk about, would they have been a top 3 tag team behind the Steiners and all that stuff, behind the Outsiders, behind the maybe the Outlaws, the Eliminators and all that stuff? Would they have been a legitimate top 3 team with all those teams?
First of all, who the fuck are the Outlaws?
New Age Outlaws. What are you talking about?
Oh, New Age Outlaws. You said that. Oh, you're talking about worldwide, not just WCW.
Yeah, worldwide.
Hands down, they're better than the Outsiders. It's not the Outsiders.
No, that's what I'm asking. In the 90s, would they have been a top 3 team with all those tag teams in the 90s that I can name? Harlem Heat, Public Enema, the Eliminators, the Outsiders, and all that stuff. Would they have been that top 3 team in the 90s?
The only team better to me of all of them would be the Steiners, and that's what I'm saying. They might have taken them over eventually, but for sure they're better than the Outlaws to me. For sure they're better than the Outsiders for me. They're, no offense to ECW guys, but none of them teams are on my list. You know, not even Public Enema, because they were. I think those teams were great in ECW, but I just don't think they translated outside of that. Whereas like Dudley Boys would, you know, Edge and Christian. So here's my problem with Edge and Christian. They never, as much as they were a tag team, because they were part of that trilogy of terror, right? The Hardys and the Dudleys, they didn't have a team name. What I like about Hollywood Blondes is they have a team name. They look like a team. They dress alike. They do team moves. They do all that stuff. So I would even say Steiner's number 1. Yeah, the Blondes I would put 2, and then 3 would probably be, I'd say the Hardys, because Edge and Christian.
Well, the Hardys' resume grew in the 2000s, in the early 2000s, not in the 90s.
Okay, so we're not even counting those guys then.
Yeah, we're not counting them because
they're strictly 90s.
Yeah, you're right. Steiners 1, maybe Hollywood Blondes 2, if they had the run that we're talking about.
Yeah.
They would have been multiple-time tag team champions.
I think just what they did makes them 2. They would have been even bigger if they did more. That's why I'm saying they possibly surpass the Steiners if they have longevity. Because I'm just trying to think of like the New Age Outlaws.
You want me to name new teams? I'm going to name them again. New Age Outlaws, Harlem Heat, Public Enema, Road Warriors. Well, again, like I said, they got nostalgic.
Want to count the Demolition, but I think they were done early 90s.
Yeah, they were done.
Yeah, because I would definitely say that Demolition's in there just for the the ass end of the 80s, beginning of the 90s. But that's the only other team that I would maybe put ahead of them. But again, if they got a run and say Demolition went a little longer and they worked Demolition and they worked the Steiner and they worked the Outlaws or whatever. I think the Outlaws, they were just, again, sizzle. I don't think they were a great wrestling team. You know what I mean? They might have success, and that's where my problem is with the Dudley Boys too. Is the Dudley Boys were a shtick, and they didn't really small package you and do, you know what I mean? Whereas the Steiners were the fucking human suplex machines, and they did teamwork. They did the Doomsday Device, but with the Bulldog. They did a lot of cool shit. The Outlaws, I don't think, did that, and I don't think the Outsiders is just
sometimes the gimmick and let's just say the impact they had on the industry puts them in a higher plateau that you're not putting on them. That's what I'm just saying. Outsiders are getting more cred for their impact. Dudley Boys get more cred for the impact of ECW. That's why I'm just giving you all that stuff.
Right. No, I understand what you're saying, but I'm talking about who I look at and think that's a good tag team. Like, best. All right. Like, it wrestles circles around somebody.
I will give you this. If they had a long run, I think they would be behind the Steiners at number 2. Number 3, at least, the lowest. I will give you that. So we'll end that there.
But see, here's the problem. The Steiners are in the same category as these guys for me, because I don't think that's why they're not in my top 5, because they didn't get the longevity. They tore up when they were a team, and then bam, Rick's doing this and Scott's doing that, and
But what they did was enough with the New Japan, WWE, WCW, and all that stuff was enough to have them as the top team of the 90s. But let's end this on a different note for TW's booking magic. What say you, TW? What would have been a great dream match tag team scenario for the Hollywood Blondes that would have made TW either pay for it on pay-per-view or buy a ticket to go to the Joe Louis Arena? Hollywood Blondes versus who would have made TW say, I'm going to pay my money for it?
Any team ever, or that
any team, any era, whatever you want. It's the floor is yours. You ain't even wrong.
Bobby Eaton and Stan Lane. Hollywood Blondes versus Midnight Express would have been just absolutely barn burning.
But you say I'm not going to say you're wrong. I actually enjoying that. But you even say yourself, you don't like heel versus heel. It makes it bad.
So, okay. Then there's number 2. And I think it would have been phenomenal. The Rockers versus Austin and Pillman. Rockers versus I'm not a big Rock and Roll Express guy. I think Rockers are leaps and bounds better than those guys. Maybe not charisma wise, especially at that point in their careers when they were the team. But I think match wise, work rate, all that. The Rockers had a good match with Andre and Haku, damn it, that I didn't even know happened until you sent it to me. So it's just, who the fuck was it there? Andre and Haku?
No, it was the Twin Towers.
Oh, yeah, Boss Man and One Man Gang. So Rockers versus Hollywood Blondes would be great. I don't know that the Hart Foundation versus Brett and Owen versus them would have been off.
You ain't wrong. I'll go with that. Good. That's cool.
Brett and Owen is the tag team that could have been, should have been, would have been if they ever got the chance, right? But yeah, I for sure. And by the way, we just did a show where the fucking Midnight Express were baby faces until they turned on the Dynamic Dude. So
but there was a window to do it. I'm just saying the legacy
even say Hollywood Blondes versus Demolition, original Demolition, Axe and Smash, with Axe and Smash as the baby faces, because they had good matches as baby faces, which is crazy because they just have such a heel aura to them that them as baby faces, and because They were heels when they lost into the Hart Foundation, where the Road Warriors helped out.
Yes,
they're back to heels again. But but just Demolition in their prime versus Hollywood Blondes in their prime. Demolition is the good guys. I don't know that they were in their prime as the good guys, but you know what I mean. But Rockers versus them.
I agree with you on the Rockers. I can see a 7-match series with the Rockers versus the Hollywood Blondes.
Yep.
You're perfect on that one. And with that being said, we close on this Spotlight edition, Untapped Potential edition here at the Hami Media Group at podbeam.com with the Hollywood Blondes. What are we going to do next time? I don't know, but maybe we'll do another Spotlight. Maybe we'll do a What If. Maybe we'll do a rivalry series, but I'll keep you on your toes. Or we might go episodic for Donnie Day 1, so this way he'd be like, yes.
How many we got left?
How many we got left? I got to look at my number. I think we're like 6 before
6 to go?
Yeah, 6 to go before the elusive 200. So maybe I might do an episodic, but I'll keep you on your toes, Reflection Nights. I'll keep you on your toes.
I got an idea what to do. I think we should do.
You got an idea?
Smoky Mountain. We should do a Smoky Mountain wrestling episode.
TW wants it. TW gets it. I will find a Smoky Mountain episode. I'll find one with Jim Ross on commentary. Is that good?
Perfect.
There you go. So TW, give out those socials so we can get out of here.
Alrighty, you can follow us on the you can follow the Pro Wrestling Coalition Network sponsors us at PWC Network at Podbean.com, where Hameen Media Group is also at Podbean.com and ChannelAttitude.com. Our X is at PW Reflection. Travis is at Nuts and Bolts PW. JB is at the P1JB. And Big Ray's all over the internet crying about the New York Yankees. And you can find him at Big Ray Hernandez on all the social media, and every Wednesday live doing the Next Level podcast on YouTube or show. I'm on X and Instagram at TommyWonder19, which is also Threads, which just so you know, I try getting banned every single day on Threads. They ask me if I'm sure I want to post this, and I say, yes, I am. Not even a warning. That's it. They haven't even suspended me. I'm trying to get banned for life. But at TommyWonder19 is Instagram, X, and Threads. Snapchat is #Wonder. Facebook.com/TommyWonder. At the Tommy Wonder is my other Twitter and TikTok. And you can find Big Vito and Noel at Big Vito Brand on TikTok.
And you can find me on the Blue Sky. I don't get banned so far at pwsoprf.bsky.social. You can find me on the Twitter at pwsoprf. That's pwsoprof. And if this gets uploaded by that slow ass motherfucker A-Track Brown, this will be on the PWSO YouTube network. But if you can't wait like months and years for the video edition, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel at PWSOPRF on the YouTube channel. Follow my brothers in arms, Billy Ray Valentine, Mr. Political himself at Obi-Wan Yonomi, and of course the king of the reactions, 8-Track Brown at the #8, TRAC Brown. And again, next week we will do episodic for TW. I will find a Smoky Mountain episodic episode, hopefully with Jim Ross on commentary. With that being said, I'm the professor. That's Mr. Wonderful, Dum Dum Doing 80's own, the Iron Stomach One, Dr. Freaking Stein, and the undisputed, undeniable, Universal Heavyweight Champion of the world from Detroit Rock City, respectively, the Tommy Wonder saying good night, and we'll see you next time here at the Hameen Media Group at Podbean.com. Peace. Roll that camera.